Hands
His angle there,
Nathan,
nice,
big
nice
left
kick.
Here comes Jordan,
Jordan come back with those hands again.
Hey, yo, your boys are back again. I know it's been a couple of weeks, but we're here, kind of.
Sort of, yeah. Here in some capacity.
So it's myself, Shane, and Hugh across the board there. How are you today, sir?
Well, it's good to be back. I haven't actually been on the show for, I don't even, it's been a little while, a couple of weeks at least.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for your patience.
Yeah. I guess everyone might know how you feeling after your fight from before.
Yeah, I'm good. Obviously a bit of a tough one, but look, like a good fight, definitely. Got caught on the back end. Shit happens. Taking a little bit, hence sort of why I haven't been here as well. I'm taking a couple of weeks just to slow down a little bit, like still training and everything, but I've had like consistently always going into every fight for like 2 years, knowing when the next one or two after that are, and just taking a couple of weeks to just not have anything on the books, which I think will be good for me. And also just fucking around traveling everywhere in Australia every weekend.
Yeah. Also, like talking about that traveling, how was Salt Fight Series? I got to watch it. I'm a fan of Versace Dave.
I love Versace Dave.
Yeah, but how was Salt? Just quickly, how was Salt Fight Series?
Yeah, it was really, really good. Like I am a huge fan of what Matt and Will have done with Salt. Like I think it's so sick. Like especially, I think I'm at a really interesting perspective coming in there because I'm lucky enough to commentate, but I'm not super close to the MMA scene. And that's not to say like I've always watched MMA. Like I started out watching MMA before I watched Muay Thai, as a lot of people did. Kind of like what initially got me interested in combat sports. But I, over time, have been kind of off put by what MMA shows can be. And that's not to be disparaging. It's just quite a different offering. It's very like sort of that, it's, I don't know how would you describe kind of like an Australian MMA show typically? I know it's changed. There are a lot of like the upscale ones, but it's not definitely like that. Thai boxing shows are a really, really different atmosphere. They're much more kind of like casual. There are a lot of shows that, people would comfortably bring their kids to. And I think Salt really, and I'm sure a big part of this is Matt Williams being so involved with both MMA and Muay Thai and kind of trying to take kind of the format of one and lend it to the other. And that's what I think Salt Fight Series is. And I know you spoke with Matt on one of the episodes I didn't show up to. I just listened to it and he explained a lot of this. It's the idea of the show is to give locals from the Surf Coast, which is a regional part of Victoria, a stage to perform in front of their own crowd, which they don't get often. And that, as like just being there on ringside, cage side even, to commentate, you can feel that in the crowd. And they do a great job of, a lot of the show is amateur, and a lot of these amateurs probably won't ever go on to go pro, but still to create, without a massive amount of extra pressure, just a little bit of a stage. And that can be a hard thing to balance. It's not this over the top glitz and glamour. It's on a basketball court, but they've got a walkout stage and a little screen that plays video packs as they come out. And you can feel that in the crowd when the fighters, like, they're so excited. These are people that have been supporting their friends and relatives for a long time, but maybe not been able to go up to Melbourne, drive the 90 minutes or so, or even further to go and watch them. And it's an afternoon show. It's also really cool the way all the sponsors are local businesses. So it's really like, feels like a community driven event. Yeah, it's super, super sick. I have a great time every time I go down. I'm heaps lucky that they get me involved to commentate, because they could just as easily get someone who knows anything about MMA. So hopefully they've done a good job. And yeah, I had a great time. It was a pity this time around that I, like Matt brought me down for the first one and just couldn't make me leave. I stayed there for about 8 months, just enjoying the like the lifestyle down there and going for these beautiful runs. But this time I just had to do a quick shoot in and out, which is a pity, because like I really get along well with a lot of the people down there. They're a cool little community, especially at Bones. Matt's done a really good job with the promotion and with his gym. So yeah, it's really nice to get down and catch up with those guys. And Matt has some really big plans in the works for the rest of the year. Maybe more so in a sport that I'm a bit more interested in. So that will come out over time. But yeah, he's doing such a good job. I'm a huge Matt Williams fan. He's awesome.
Nice. Yeah, well, it's even when we talked to Matt from there, just goes to the promoting side of it, he could take it or leave it. But like, you know, how it's like, you know, but like everything else, like when it goes like, you know, you get such positive stuff, it's hard to not keep a role going or like, you know, doing other things like, you know, branching out. So hopefully you get some of that big news comes out soon from him, which would be awesome.
Yeah, and on that point about the promoting, I think what Matt does really well, like he's really about his people. And I think like all of the logistical side of promoting can kind of make him feel like, fuck, I don't really want to do this. But I know he's like buzzing up. Like once you actually get the people into the venue and you see how much they love it and how much they appreciate it from a crowd side, but also like the fighters had such a good time. Like, and that's what he's about. Like once the fighters had the opportunity, I think he was singing a different tune about promoting. So I think he might put himself through it again.
Yeah, that's it. When it's going good, it's going real good. When it goes bad,
yeah.
You just want to bury your head in the sand, just like forget everything.
Well, his team had a great night too. I think they went 5 from 6, which is awesome.
No, it was good. That was a really good night for him. Awesome. All right, cool. All right, so that's enough from us at the moment from there because we actually have a guest today, as you probably would have seen on the podcast thumbnail. All right, but from there, just kind of doing a bit of the rundown from there. So he trains out of Machete Gym, run by Reese Sabler. He's a WMC middleweight Aus champion. He has a huge fight coming up with Jayy Tonkins on July 8th. It is Cody, Traeway, Jameson. How are you today, sir?
Good, guys. How are you?
Nice. Thank you, man, for coming on today. Appreciate it. But I guess that's always been asked to be put on from there. And then, like, you know, we've made it happen now. And like, yeah, and it's on the heels of like you just like doing some really great stuff. And like, you know, coming in hot, which is like what we want to see. So Cody, the first time that we get everyone on the podcast is we just want to know the Muay Thai origin story. And let's just kind of get the building blocks going, you know, like, you know, how did you start? What got you interested? And then we'll kind of progress into your fight career.
Yep. I got to start and say it's Machete Muay Thai, not Machete. Reese would beat my ass if I left.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah. So I started out my dad left when I was really young and my mum was in domestic violence relationships all the way up until I was about 12 years old, which is when I got bashed in high school in year 7 and then joined a local kickboxing gym, just like a cardio kickboxing gym to try and defend myself, learn how to actually fight. Never wanted like to let my family go through that, what she went through. So obviously being the man of the house at that age, I wanted to learn to protect her. And ever since then, just been addicted. Had a couple different gyms, had one fight out of hybrid martial arts, which is what it was called. Had 2 fights under Glenn Purvis out of Jab Out Gym. Then changed to Full Force when I was 17, had 25 out of there. And then now out of Machete and had three out of Machete now.
Nice. So when you just like first started there, like with hybrid training, was correct? Yeah, cool. So like how was your training experience? Like, you know, coming from where you came from and getting from there, was it like, you know, you found it as to be like a positive outlet for yourself?
Yeah, of course. My mum started with me. She used to come down to the classes just because I was lacking confidence and stuff like that. She ended up marrying my trainer as well. So that's a cool little story there. They now have 3 kids together. So I got 3 more sisters out of it and a career. So that's pretty sick. But yeah, the training was very different. It was just a cardio gym. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be on UFC. I'm going to be UFC champion, blah, blah. And then my mum made the decision of like, I was doing jiu-jitsu and kickboxing. And she's like, oh, I can't afford both. You do one or the other. I love punching people in the face more than grappling. So I was like, yeah, fuck it. I'll do Muay Thai.
Well, like you brought up a name there, like I haven't heard for such a long time. Glenn Pulvis. I remember back in the day, man. Watching him fight was like a tornado. Like that man got after it from there. How was it training under someone like him? Which I imagine at the time he would have been like fully into his fighting career as well.
It was towards the back end. I think he had 3 fights when I was still training with him. His last 3 fights. It was sick. It was my first like traditional coach, first someone that had actually fought, and first real style of fighting. So that developed my style from the start, which led into full force as well. The style wise blended really well. Me and Glenn went to the same school, which is cool. He finished the year I started. So it was always sort of like a name around the area, that when I started kickboxing, it was always Glenn, and then there was Reese and Christina Djurjevic at the time as well.
Yeah.
Going around there. So then when I got the opportunity to train with Glenn, it was like I was training with one of my idols, which was sick.
Nice. So when after that, and then like we just kind of make those progressions there. So you found yourself at Full Force Gym, which is run by the Bedados, like Reinhardt, Michael, Von as well. Yeah, it's like, it's like that the fighting Filipinos.
Yeah.
And then, it's like transitioning from one gym to the other. What did you find? Was there an acclimatization period where you're like, oh, to adjust to this, is it much different, or did you find that you kind of found your feet pretty quickly?
So I stopped training with Glenn when I was 16, because he ended up moving and he left his gym. So I didn't really have a coach, and there was no one really in the Penrith area that did Muay Thai. So I waited until I was 17 and got my Ps myself, and was like, I'm either going to go to PTJ or Full Force, and Full Force was a little bit closer. So I ended up on Full Force, and by the time I got there, I had my first fight on Ren's show. So I sort of had a little bit of relationship with Ren. Then when I was there and I was like, hey, like I want to fight, yada, yada. He was like, yep, all supportive, straight into the fighters class, and then pushed through there.
Nice.
So you mentioned as well that that was 25 for your first fight. So kind of the, I suppose, formative years of your career. Yeah, you're fighting at Full Force when I got to know you. So talk kind of about, if you will, kind of like, how did you feel Full Force would influence your style? Because they have quite a distinct style, right? That walk forward, very rooted in kind of like the kickboxing scene from back in the day, high pressure, high volume. So talk a little bit about, I guess, what you kind of felt like you took from that style, and then we'd love to hear like how you ended up progressing, because I know there was kind of a transitionary period where you were training out of both Machete Muay Thai and Full Force. So what was kind of the logic behind, I guess, how did you end up sort of starting to spend some time training with Reese, and what was it that he kind of added to the toolkit that drove you that way?
Yeah. So the progression towards like through Full Force, when I first got there, was Jesse March was still fighting. Conch was still really like Joe Concha was still really active. He had retired. I think he may have had one fight, but he may as well have just been retired.
He had a bit of a semi-retired sort of period, right? Where,
yeah. I think maybe he had one more when he came back, but I can't really remember. But we'll say retired. Frank Sanchez had a few. Michael was still around the gym, and then Ren was like Ren's still there, obviously. So when I first got there, it was all them killers. So I got put through my paces every day with them guys, looking up to them, wanting to be one of them. Then towards like maybe halfway through, they started, like, Franz opened up Striker's Lab. He had his own. Michael was a little less involved. He now PTing full time, so he has his own stuff that he has to deal with. Joe obviously retired, so he was less involved. So it was mainly just me, and there was a few other amateurs as well, but it was mainly me for the majority of it. So I didn't really have, it was just me and Ren. So I didn't really have the training partners for a little bit. Then, like, it's no secret that Full Force, if they lack, like, it's clinching, like when they're not a big clinching gym.
Not their style. Yeah,
exactly. So I got the go forward, that pressure, that like want to bang from them guys, like that heart, which that suits me really well. I have to be told to pull back and to not fight sometimes, just to be able to catch my breath. Then when lockdown happened, I had a few fights that were lined up, like really good fights, with one of your boys, Dion, when Dion was with you guys. Then that was the week after COVID. So I think we got locked down on the Saturday. The Saturday we went to was the CM to Sydney, me and Dion. And then that happened. Obviously everyone stopped training. When we came back for that short 6-month period, I had 2 more fights. I fought in Canberra, then fought on the 8-man. Then we didn't really get many Muay Thai offers. So the K1 was fine. Then we started getting some Muay Thai offers, but then lockdown happened for the second time. And we were like, oh, fuck, like I can't train anyone. But they opened that 5K radius around your house. And Katie Mitchell just started training with Reese. And obviously I'm best friends with Katie. So we're talking and she was like gassing him up and like, oh my God, like you guys would blend together so well. Like he's so smart. You guys would just feed off each other. So I started booking in PTs with Reese and instantly just was like, fuck, like I'm so glad I came here because the one area I was lacking in the most was clinching. And that's pretty much all we did for the whole 6 months to a year of lockdown where we could train 5Ks was him just beat me up in a park, just clinching and throwing me around. And I was loving every minute of it.
Nice. So talking about like, at the moment when you said like, it's like that kind of the training partners type of thing, because like it's a lot of yourself and like, it's like a lot of gyms go through that period where it's like, you have like a bunch of fighters that have been the same, but then they drop off and there might be only like 1 or 2 from there. How did you find that like a workaround with there, like, just kind of doing more personal work like with Ren at the time, or were you trying to the amateur fighters trying to bring them up so like, they can get a little bit more experience and help you out? How did you manage doing that?
It was good because I got that one-on-one attention from Ren. It was really good because I was like the top guy, so Ren would focus all on me, and then I could help bring up some of the up and comers, like one of my best mates now, Chris Henley, Kid Dingo, if on Instagram. Like I started working with him, bringing him up. Brendan joins, I would bring him up. So I started progressing and working towards. But I kind of got lazy as well and just started coasting because I didn't have a challenge. I didn't have someone like right there with Jesse and Franz and Michael. I was chasing. I was like, I want to be up with you guys. Whereas when I was at the top, I was bringing them up. So I was like, just kind of having fun with it.
Yeah. Your energy's not going to the right place, right? You kind of almost become a part of the coaching fabric rather than, yeah.
So I was sort of coasting a little bit and coaching more so than training and like being a little bit selfish with my training. So that dynamic there sort of switched a little bit. But then when I swapped to Reese or started training out of the two, Reese never let me have that. If I slacked, I had I still do, but less so now, but I had a microscope on me for so long because he'd been through that situation throughout Jab Out as well.
Yeah.
He knew exactly what I was going through. So he just would focus on me and his eye and everything. If I took a round off, like I'd be doing extra laps. If I didn't do that extra kick, like I would be doing double next time. Everything was always accounted for, which obviously in my most recent fights has shown. Yeah.
And I'm always interested, like I feel probably that period of time, and not to speak for you, you can just from an outside perspective, it almost felt like you made the decision to move to train under Reese, and then maybe the split between the two gyms was just a little bit out of loyalty to Full Force. Like you'd been there for so long, you didn't quite want to step all the way away. And obviously you mentioned you've got that a couple of guys that look up to you that you're sort of bringing up as well. In that time that I guess you were split across the two gyms, did you start to feel a little bit of a pull in terms of they're of course very stylistically different, and I can imagine there would be a little bit of maybe conflict between what you're gaining in one place and what's being said in the other. Did you start to feel anything like that? Is that kind of what made you realize you had to consolidate and pick one?
It wasn't so much conflict because Reese from the start, because I always communicated if anyone's going to change gyms, if anyone's going to switch between, communicate with both gyms at all times, which I did very well. And I spoke to Ren before I started doing PTs with Reese. And Ren was like, yeah, bro, like go ahead, go do it. Yeah. And then before I was when we were coming out of COVID, because I was just doing PTs. I was like, hey, like I'm gonna make the switch and train out of both to Reese, and he was like, yeah, if you can get confirmation from Ren. So Reese always told me it was Ren's word, then him. So if he's in a corner, Ren's first corner, second corner at all times, which I really respected from Reese, and it made everything so much easier because it was my own free will at all times. The biggest change was now, like Ren's in his early 50s now, and because I was just coming up, it was a lot easier when I was like 17, 18 for him to hold pads. But when I started hitting like 22, 23, he's had like 60 fights or something. Like it's a lot of wear and tear on the body.
Yeah.
Whereas Reese being fresh, like he's only just out of his fight career, only just hit 30. His pad, like he could take what I could. So it was more of a push from Ren. I started doing 2 days a week at Machete. Then it started being 3, then it started being 4, and then 5. And then I just had to make that adjustment and be like, hey, like I love you, Ren. And we had a massive D&M and talk about it, and he's happy for me. He invited me to his son's 18th birthday, which couldn't go because I was in Thailand. But every fight show, like I always see him. I was invited to the Christmas parties. So there's no bad blood there, and we've got all the love in the world for Ren and Full Force.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, for sure. So going into your fight career a bit, and there, like, how many amateur fights did you end up having?
I tried to do the math yesterday for you guys. I think it's 14, 15, or 16. I can't remember.
Yeah, nice.
One of the 3.
Yeah. So when you're just doing your amateur fighting from there, it was like a lot of mixed rule sets, or did you have like more kickboxing fights and Muay Thai fights there, or how would that go? Because like, sometimes the amateur experience is experience, right?
Yeah.
How the scene plays out. But how did you find your amateur career?
I just wanted to fight. I still do just want to fight. I fought boxing. I fought D-class MMA rules. I fought Muay Thai. I don't actually, that's a lie. I had one Muay Thai fight as well. But kickboxing, boxing, K1, D-class MMA, anything I could fight, I would.
Yeah. So like, and then that kind of led to your pro career that we're going through now. I feel like there was a period from there where like, you're getting a bit of a build up, and then like you took a step up, you go, fuck, it's time to get it moving from there, which like, such fights as like Nick Trask and Jayy Long. Yeah, big step ups from there. Didn't come away with a win, but I think like after those fights, I saw like a change in you, like in fights afterwards, where you kind of just go, all right, I've seen the top now from here, so I got to step it up. Did you feel like the same way going into those types of fights and afterwards?
100%. Once you've tasted it, like I want to be there with those guys. The Nick fight, going back to your previous question about the conflict, I had internal conflict in that fight because that was the first time I had Reese and Ren in the corner. And having them there there wasn't any like dynamic conflict between them two, but for me, in my head, I was trying to be this way, and then just butting heads with myself.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of hesitation. Like half of me wanted to fight and just bite down and stand and bang, and the other half wanted me to just, all right, settle. It's Muay Thai, like score, look beautiful, like really do the traditional thing. So
this fight was in Queensland, right?
Yeah.
Probably didn't even need to worry about that anyway.
Yeah. But that fight itself, like that was a lot of internal conflict. And then I didn't realize that was probably my ego trying to have both of them there because I wanted both of them. So I take 100% accountability for that. And then when I fought Jake, I was 3 weeks after Nick, which one was fucking stupid. I was so banged up for that. I regret that one too. But I only had one corner, and I was more set. I fucked up like 3 weeks ago because I had both of them. Now there's only one person. I've only got one chef in the kitchen, and I could focus a lot more clearly.
So after the Jake Long fight, like, took you like, got yourself together, like, heal up a little bit from there. Was there anything in particular that you changed, that you felt there's major changes on there, or was it like a mindset approach, like that needed to be changed to set you off?
I think it was more mindset. finally making that choice between the two.
Yeah.
Arguing with myself and being like, all right, if I'm going to commit, like I'm going to commit, doing that hard talk that I had to have with Ren. And then just, again, having one chef in the kitchen. I was like, yeah, this is what we're doing. And then I fought Tristan after that for the WMC title. Since that fight, I think that was mine and Reese's growing pains, just that one fight. Since then, like the results speak now. We blend really well. Like we go together really well.
Yeah, and also, of course, a major adjustment after the Jake Lund fight was moving down to middleweight, of course. Yeah, that skipped my mind. That too. If I'm honest with myself, I was lazy my whole career until then. I don't feel like I really trained up until I started cutting to middleweight. Like the training now compared to what I was training to before, I was professional, like technically professional, but treating it as if I was a casual. Like I wasn't really, my diet, I was fucking shit with my training. Like, oh, I'm tired today. Like I was just very lacking, and I was getting by on I don't even know why I was getting by really. Well, that's kind of the other thing, right? Is of course worth considering as well. Like that step up that you took at the time of the Nick Trask fight was like worlds different in terms of caliber of fighter. You know what I mean? Like that Nick Trask, Jake Lund. Jake Lund especially is now like the best light heavyweight in the world. You're now fighting at middleweight. But it's also, do you feel there was like almost a management element to it, in that like you had all these fights all over against guys that, no, to be realistic, probably just weren't on your level. And then you get that kind of taste of what it takes to go at these top end guys. Was that kind of like a wake up call? Like, okay, it's all well and good to fight at this sort of local level, but it's something different to prepare for really top class fighters.
Yeah, I've more so than the fight itself. I think it was Reese. Like we sat down, we had a chat, and he's like, sometimes like you're taking the piss, and he didn't let me. Like I said, with the training, I wasn't training, I was teaching. Whereas I only had to focus, well, I only do have to focus on training with Reese, and being under that microscope made me perform the way I had to. I feel like obviously with Jake, I fucking got steamrolled. It is what it is. But Nick, I was there. I think I won, but
it was a close fight. It was
a close fight. Like it is what it is. I'm happy to see him make a return, and I'm happy to run that one back soon too. I would love that. But yeah, that was like competitive. Whereas like the Jake, that even bigger step, because it went from national level to world level, and that is where I was like, oh, okay, that's the gap. That's where it's at.
Yeah, for sure. And now, like, you know, like after that, like Tristan fight, you got a couple more. How many more fights have you had now after the WMC title fight?
3. Yeah. So 3 fights.
Yep. So one of them, like, so 70-74, and then recently you're just in Thailand on the Fairtex Fight night promotion. How was that experience on the Fairtex promotion?
Having 30 fights in Australia and then fighting there was weird. Fighting at 10 a.m. was weird.
That would be weird. I've always thought that about that Fairtex show.
Even after the fight, one of the other boys from the gym was fighting on RWS. So we went there and watched later that night. And then people were like, oh, like, congratulations, like, good fight, and like coming up to me and stuff. And I was like, for what? Like, what do you mean good fight? Like, your knockout. And I was like, oh, fuck, yeah, right. Like, I fought earlier today. Like, it was very strange walking out and it still being sunny, going in and being sunny. I woke up that morning at 5:30, and then I was getting breakfast at 6 o'clock, and I was like, oh, I'm fighting in like 4 hours. Usually I've got like 15 hours to go. I was like, wow.
And
No, you go. Okay. So how, like, I think I saw on your stories or even posted, like, you know, you felt the whole back scenes of of that show, and this fight in particular was like so vastly different than when it was in Australia. Now, run us through the emotions and like, you know, the feelings that you're having in the backstage at Fairtex.
Yeah. It felt really, really professional. It felt high class. They had like a professional cut man, professional hand wrapper who wrapped everyone's hands. Everything was scheduled because it's TV as well, and like the live stream and stuff. Everything is scheduled, run to a T. You guys know what weigh-ins and fight shows are here. They say 6:30. You don't get there. Like 7:30 is good start if they say 6:30. So everything was like on the dot, ready to go. Gloves here, like yada yada. 14 8-ounce gloves, which is wild putting on them. I was like, I may as well be fighting in the MMA gloves. Like there's nothing in these. The walkout and stuff, like there was probably, and I'm not exaggerating, there was probably like 20 people in the crowd because it's so early and it's such a hard place to get to. Just no one's there. So the stadium's empty when you're looking around. It's just like a backyard bar fight. It felt like, yeah, cool. I'm just going to punch on in front of my mates. Like, yeah, mad. Like, this is sick.
Yeah, that Fairtex show it's interesting, right? Because like I've not made it out to one, hopefully soon, but I've been watching some of them and it's just weird. Like it's dressed up like quite a commercial, sort of like high-end show. But as you say, like it's at 10 in the morning with no crowd. Like it's a little bit like, what is this?
Yeah, it's good for like the sound effects. Anything I hit him with, like even like the body punches, they echoed through the whole stadium. It was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just no one. Like it's because the Lumpini have the deal with like One and stuff like that. It's mainly for them, and Fairtex get that extra rub from like the big show and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just having no one there was weird, especially like when they're doing the announcement and you like look out, like, yeah, like I'm fighting, and it's empty seats. It's like, oh,
crickets. Yeah.
Cool.
And
they should have set it up like that Go Sports one with like, you know, all the people's faces watching it.
Oh fuck that! Don't even remind me of that. I'm interested though. Like, I think those Fairtex shows are a good way to just kind of get some experience in quite a Western format. Like, it's up and down in terms of I think the show is still figuring out what level it is, because every now and then you actually get quite a good main event, but there's also like, it's a Thailand show, right? It's on every single Saturday without fail. So they're going to do what they've got the matches for, and a lot of the matches are thrown together at the last minute. But yeah, cool to see. Obviously, if anyone didn't catch it, just steamrolled this dude. Body shots were the work, right? Like reactions at body, yeah. But I'm interested to hear, like, what was the training like at Sanfmorakot? Sanfmorakot's gym I've been familiar with for some time. I think they got really quiet for a couple of years, but it looked really busy when you were there. And they also seem to be producing a lot of a lot of Westerners are going there and fighting out of there again. So why was it Sanfmorakot? Like, what sort of brought you there? I know you've trained at Simbi previously. Why Sanfmorakot? What was the training like? What would you think? Would you go back? Anything else?
Me and Katie were tossing up going to Chiang Mai, like more for her. Well, originally I was going to go to Bangkok and she was going to Chiang Mai because like more girls out there.
More female fights in Chiang Mai, yeah.
More males, obviously, in Bangkok. But then like the whole trip was thrown together pretty much within 3 weeks because we had a big gap between fights. She fought on MTGP when I fought on 1774.
Yep.
And we left. So we fought both Saturday night, left on Monday because it's the biggest gap we have between fights. We were originally going to go around April, go to the Rolling Loud Festival and go like around Songkran festival. But then when we were talking to Reese, he's like, nah, I got some stuff booked here and here. And this timeline just made sense. So she originally was going to go to Chiang Mai. I was going to go to Bangkok. And we're like, nah, fuck it. We'll just like both go to Bangkok together. And she knew the risk going there that she may not fight, which she didn't end up getting a fight, which is fucking heartbreaking. But we're going to go over again soon, hopefully. We went to Sanfmorakot because first of all, Reese gave us a list of gyms and it was completely up to him where we went to. Whatever he said, I was just going to follow like gospel. And one of the boys from the gym went to Sanfmorakot and just came back and was like, yeah, it's really good. So they had a few big Westerners, and that was the main point. Lucas Sayer was there.
Yeah.
He was over. He left the day I got there, which is fucking disappointing.
Shout out Lucas Sayer. He's going to fight Muay next week.
Ooh,
Yeah,
get
that's
it.
his one.
Yeah. So the Westerners was a big push, and then they just got the 500,000 baht grant from One.
Yeah.
So the connections to One as well through there was if I could get in here, then I can plant a seed to make a relationship and have a pathway to go to One, which talking to Top, the big boss of Sanfmorakot is a possibility, which is cool. I'm definitely going to go back there. The training was very under Reese. It's very similar.
Yeah.
Like we train for the same time. Pretty much do a lot of the same thing, but it was just more drawn out and very do your own thing. We get the 4-4s on pads in the morning and the afternoon, and then it was like bag work you do yourself. Your 300 you do yourself. The 300 teeps you do yourself. Like 30-minute skip, and then like clinching and sparring and stuff like that. So it was good for just getting those reps in, extra reps, and then not having to focus about anything but training twice a day.
Yeah.
Nice. So talk about what is it like sharing the training room with Katie Mitchell. I imagine it'd be like two lions circling the same wildebeest, you know?
It's two lions circling the same mirror, pretty much. Both competing to get the same spot in front of the mirror and the good lighting. So obviously me and Katie have been best friends now for like 5 or 6 years. When she was out of UTC and I was still out of full force, we would go train with each other all the time. We'd always train in parks together, go to the local gym near us and just hit pads together. And then when we made the transition now, it's been a blessing. Like she's 100% like the team captain. She was there first. She's top dog. As much as we fight for it, she's like, what she says goes. She's princess for a reason.
Yeah, she's been like very impressive the last year. She's made leaps and bounds and like taken some good names as well. So like she had a recent fight against Victoria in a good one. So like it's like it seems like it's working out pretty well. Especially the pairings to you with Reese. Nothing but positive stuff coming out of there.
It's good because we just talk shit to each other. I don't want to lose to her and she does not want to lose to me. So it's very competitive. And then Reese is in both of our ears, like talking shit, like, oh, she said she was better at this than you, like, oh, he said you were this, and we just like it's competitive in like a good and fun nature.
Yeah, healthy competition, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Staying on Thailand momentarily, I'm interested always to get the perspective. Like I think Australian fighters traveling to Thailand, the perspective on it has changed a lot over the years, and there's a little bit of a consensus. Like some people are really all about like you got to go and spend some time there, do an extended stint, get some fights up, and then I think as the scene here has developed so much, there's high level competition and like the opportunity to stay quite active here. Others are kind of the perspective that you're better off training here, get your fights up at like an Australian level and build your name on our shows and kind of just go over there, get some training, pick up some new tricks, get kind of like get to the heart of the sport, I suppose, like just for experience sake. There's also kind of like that. I know you're big into like kind of your strength and conditioning. You're got quite a modern, I guess, sort of training arrangement, which in Thailand is, it's all very traditional, slow runs, heaps of reps. So I guess like for you, do you feel like which side of the fence do you sit on? Do you feel like there's a lot of benefit to doing like a long run? Would you see yourself going there and doing an active run of fights? Do you think you're better off here under Reese and then just hopping over there for individual opportunities?
I've spoken, some of the opportunities I've been not so much given, have been offered at the moment out of Sanfmorakot could potentially be career changing. And they want longer stints over there. And I've been speaking to Reese about it. I haven't done big stints. Like I've done a month here, just did 3 weeks. I've done small stints, just like only done twice. But so far, I feel like learning wise and training wise has been better here under Reese.
Yeah.
I think being under Reese, especially because he's done such long stints, he can take what works for him and what didn't work and bring it to us, and then westernize it as well, and have that bit of like, do strength and conditioning, or a couple of sessions last camp for 1774, he made me go do swimming. My hips were just a bit run down or something, and go swim. Whereas in Thailand, it's just you run, like you're sort run, keep going, like
their way or the highway.
So I think the training wise here is better from what I've seen, but I do think not having to worry about work or like the financial struggle as much over there, and just getting those reps on reps on reps on reps are really beneficial. So it is a bit of a struggle, a bit of a fight which way you want to go towards. If I'm more leaning towards staying here and then going over for 2 to 3 weeks, having that fight, coming back, then just doing my camp here again, and then going back over there and then doing that, rather than doing like, say, a year in Thailand nonstop. The routes as well, like now they have the more the entertainment shows, that like the Fairtex Fight that go into one Friday night, the super show, can't remember what it's called, but the super champ, like the more entertainment, there are big opportunities to go to like one and stuff, as well as like they'd still do, or RWS as well, but you can still do the stadium style. But if you're gonna go stadium style, I think you'd go Thailand. But if you're gonna go entertainment, you can split your time between the two, especially being more westernized.
Yeah, that's a good take. I think that's kind of becoming the kind of most people's perspective on it. It's still worth going over there and being able to focus for however long, but most people tend to feel like they develop a bit more here with coaches that, are a little bit more individually invested in them. There's also the communication side of it. I definitely don't speak Thai.
In saying that, Sanfmorakot, because there's so many Westerners there, is very, like, the gym's tiny, but the training wise, if I needed to do something, like if I was going to lift weight, they would be like, okay, like you lift weights today.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
Something that I was not prepared for. We only ran once a day. We only ran once in the morning, and it was only 6Ks. Like, it wasn't the big extended runs, but we did half an hour of skipping in the afternoon, which was pretty fun. That sucked.
Yeah, I always hated the 30-minute skip.
Yeah, it's look at that. I go. I think I go. Yeah, time could be probably better spent, but hey, when you're in someone else's gym, you gotta do what the man says.
Yeah,
for sure.
But yeah, what killed me the last time I was there was like, it was 12Ks in the morning, which like I've never minded long running. If I was there a bit longer than I was, it might have started to hurt me, but I was okay. Like, I quite like just getting out for a slow run for like an hour. So you did 12 in the morning, but then in the afternoon when it's hot as shit, you'd come back. You just do 5 or 6 in the afternoon, which is all right. But then you would skip for 30 minutes. So it's like you've already been there sweating your ass off for an entire hour before you've even wrapped your hands. Like, it's just like, I would dread that because, and it was also, I would dread the skipping because like my calves are obviously destroyed, but also it's just so fucking boring. Like, I was just dread getting that heavy skipping rope and just having to sit there and just skip for like that's what I dreaded about the afternoon training, was just having to just sit there on those fucking tiles.
It's rough. That's why I hate running. I don't mind running when I'm fit. I have begged and pleaded with Reese to not make me do over 6Ks. I hate anything more than 6Ks. It fucking sucks. I get so bored. I will like stop just because I don't want to do, like, it's not even like, oh, I'm tired. I'm sick of this now. Like, I don't want to continue running. I can do it. I know I can do it. I'm fit enough to do it, but I just don't want to be here. So now I've started splitting my run and doing 5 before training and 5 after training. So I end up doing a longer run, but within 5K blocks, I'll fucking run 4 times a day. I don't care. I just don't want to do 10Ks in once. It sucks.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's what always benefited me in times. Like, I'm the opposite. If you send me running, you can't make me come back.
Oh, I wish I was like that, but I'm just bored. I hate it so much. Music doesn't help. Podcasts don't help that much. Like, I'll get
Except
to
this one.
yeah, this one does. Except I get to like the 5-6K mark and I'm like, I just want to go home now. Like, fuck this.
Yeah, I get it. But it's also like for fighting, like I don't run for training. I do, but I have like really set intervals that I run for training, and that's generally set, and like they're programmed for me on a basis of like do it in a heart rate zone, and that can be on the air bike or a rower, or it's whatever. It actually like do that however you want. I typically choose to run for those. It's just my preferred method, and also because like I can run from anywhere. I don't have to travel anywhere to run. That's why like I'm pretty got a pretty tight schedule sometimes, so that's just easier for me. But for me, running long is just like, yeah, it's not it's something I enjoy doing, but it's not for training. Like people often say I've gone on some pretty long runs, like, and I've done some pretty dumb ones. And I get questions like, how often do you do that? What's the benefit of it? There is no fucking benefit. It's not like, that's like if you're, for me, like the running, especially the long ones are like, if you're a Muay Thai fighter and you play Oz tag on the side, that's not for your training. That's just something that you do extra. That's running for me. It's just something that I don't mind doing, and
That makes sense.
Keeps me off my phone for an hour.
I wish I could enjoy running like that. I get so bored. I get so distracted. Fuck.
Yeah, you're just leaving those demons behind in the dust.
No, they follow me. They find me.
I will sprint my like 5 to 6K in like, I think last camp before Thailand, I was doing 6K at like a 4:10 pace or something. Like I will sprint the whole thing just to get it over and done with quicker. I don't want to be there any longer than I have to be.
But that's more beneficial to what you're actually doing as well. Yeah. Like when I get closer to fights, like I still do like pretty much whenever I have time, I do like a run before training, but it's like, I'm not going to get out and do, and again, that's not part of my training. My interval stuff are involved in the session. It's like, it's take it or leave it. I like to do it. You have a work day, kind of just get yourself moving and have a bit of time to yourself before you start. It's more for the mind than anything else. But yeah, I'm trying to hold myself to a per K time and do 5, 6 maybe at a stretch in kind of like low 4-minute splits, for 20s or something like that, because it's actually, that to me makes me feel fit.
Yeah,
when I'm fighting.
When I can pump them out and I'm like nose breathing the whole time and I get back and like keep going, like, yeah, sweet. Like I'm ready to fight now.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. If we could switch gears momentarily, we'll get on to your next fight because it's a big one. And I know you are in a position where like you've been calling for some bigger fights. You've been taking the fights that are given to you, but again, like sometimes I feel you're probably not in fights that are necessarily going to drive you way forward. It's kind of just a matter of like, you fight who's in front of you, kind of. But this is one of the ones you've been asking for. It's one of the top middleweights in Australia. So break down the Jayy Tonkin match for us. How did it come together? What are your thoughts on this one?
So I have a fight before then. I'm fighting on the next 1774 show.
Yeah, you do too. Yeah, but that's, yeah.
I don't know if I can say anything other than that, but that's going to be a fucking banger too.
That's a good one, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a sick fight, and that's going to take momentum into Jayy. That Jayy fight, I don't really know how it came together. Just one day, Reese will hit pads. He's like, "Oh fuck, I got a phone call like about fighting Jayy," and I was like, "Oh, this is the first you tell it, like a random pad round." I was like, "Oh, and you're just gonna randomly fucking tell this now?" Like, yeah, mad. And he's like, "Yeah. We got to sit down and like what your schedule is, because I think I'm booked out like pretty far in advance now. Like, I think I'm pretty close to the year being booked up, or at least from July and then November. So I think there's something between that can be filled. If anyone out there wants me on that show, talk to Reese. And then we set it out and we're like, yep, sweet. I'm down for Jayy. Like, let's do it. And then I didn't ask to wait, none of that shit. Like, Reese sorts that. And then I completely forgot about it until I was in Thailand, and then the show contacted me like, hey, what's your email? We'll send you over the poster. And I was like, oh fuck, like I fucking know, like hell yeah. Mad. So they sent it to me, and then it's just blown up, and that's going to be a sick fight. I'm excited for that one as the fighter and as a fan. Like that fight itself is blood and guts. That's mad. It's going to be such a scrap.
Yeah, it's like it's good for, like you said, you got a fight on 17-4, and then Jake's got James Honey to fight against good. So you're both kind of leading into like having a good match on this one. And it's like Jay just recently got back in the scene again. Had a good stoush with Charlie Bob. And they say like as always, I think your styles will match up pretty well with each other to create that fireworks that everyone's after.
Yeah, that stylistically is blood and guts. It's gonna someone's going down, and I'm gonna try to make sure it's not me.
Yeah. That middleweight division at the moment, like at the top end, is looking pretty good. Like yourself, James Honey, Jayy, Tonkin, David Pendergast, up there. People have to build to. Like, so you got the rest of you pretty much planned out to keep the ascension going.
Yeah, we got some good things in the works for 2023. It's exciting. Now I'm getting to that, like from that state now to the top end of Australia and world level, it's going to be good. I'm excited.
And of course, there's sort of like really a handful of the top end names at middleweight. You match with a couple of them already. Davey is kind of the top of the heap right now in terms of the world ranking, but not far away from it. Probably is 4 fights that make up like the real top end of the weight class.
There's obviously David, there's Jay, there's James, and then if you want to throw me in there, which I feel like once I get in there with them boys, I could be. I will be. I need to, like you said before, the level of opponent was a little bit lower, so a couple like good stoppages I don't feel like have made up that yet, but I will be one of those 4. So if we have them 4, that's a great 4-man for anyone to have. Just that is a fucking sick 4-man if anyone has some deep pockets.
It is, but I guess my question to that is like, you've got these fights on the books now, looking at how they shake up, it's almost a point where it's not that many fights until there's kind of no one left, right? Like it's a very talent-rich division, but it's quite defined, right? I feel, I guess what I'm saying is there's quite a gap between the very top end of the weight class, and then like the middle tier is a little bit less defined.
Scarce at the top.
Yeah.
The 3 boys at the top, and then us like the rest of us, which I feel like the last 3 or 2 fights in Australia, if you want to throw the Thailand fight in there as well, has separated myself from that pack.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take. Yeah.
Within those boys, which I'm fucking grateful, and I had planned to be at the top of those boys very soon. But you are right with the scarcity.
And so do you have a clear plan for what happens, once you are able to move through? And these boys are all active, right? I'm sure these fights will happen without too much issue. What's the plan for once you've kind of been in there with everyone at the top end in Australia?
There's also Digit, who...
yeah.
He's another strong middleweight. Number 7, I think he's ranked 7 or something.
He's still ranked, yeah.
Whenever David fought him, he was top 10. So he's another strong middleweight. So that is 4 fights there.
Yep.
And then that could book me out for the rest of the year. And then I'm sure there's some rematches that want to happen. I'm not opposed to rematches. I've had them before. I'd fight the same guy 5 times. Might be five different styles of fights,
Yeah, that's a good attitude. I like that. And that's much more similar to what you see over in Thailand, right? Guys fight 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times.
Yeah. as long as I can fight, I don't care who's across from me. I just want to get in there and just fight.
Yeah, it's like at the moment, it just seems it's like everyone just wants to climb that rank and just get to David at the moment. Because at the moment, he's the most achievable person to get to. You got to have those fights. Like someone like Ditcher, might be that kind of gatekeeper, if you want to use that, to probably get past him, get yourself up in the rankings to challenge for David's title, which is like seems to be the goal for a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. It will be a lot easier and a more clear path once I can crack that top 20 in WBC. Once I can hit that, then there's an actual like, oh, okay, then it's this step, then this step, then this step to go, which is also why I haven't mind just fighting whoever's been put in front of me, because it's more experience. I've had an extra 3 fights since Jayy's fight. Jayy's fought, well, this will be, he'll fight James and then fight me. I've fought 3 times this year already, or 2 times this year already, and then I'll fight again soon, and then him. So that's 4 fights before him.
So
just staying.
Yeah,
and looking kind of beyond, like, I think middleweight's one of the best weight classes in Australia for like high concentration of those world top 20s actually being local. So it's a good division. Like the opportunity is rife in the weight class to kind of crack that world level without actually leaving Australian shores, which is really good and a testament to just the skill level we have on shore. But how closely do you watch the weight class internationally? You know, Victor Hugo had a big fight last weekend. Sanfmorakot Revolution is holding on to the world title currently, I believe. You're following those guys and kind of keeping up with their movements?
Not overly close. I don't really watch a lot of Muay Thai anymore. I've kind of burnt out when I was younger. I used to just spend my recesses and lunch just fucking watching Knockout, like the replays on Knockout, replays of any Oz Muay Thai fight I could watch. So I kind of burnt out a little bit, but I got a list in my phone of names. Whenever I can see like a top guy, like I write it down. Like I've got Joe Craven from...
He's up this weekend, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's fighting this weekend.
Fighting Thiago.
Yeah. Joe Ryan. 72.5. Eddie Abasalo, like Liam Nolan. Like I've got like a list in my phone of names that if an international is like, oh yeah, fucking, do you have anyone? Yeah, I can send it. And then I got obviously an Australian list as well, so I can pump that out and just get as many fights and matches as I can.
Yeah. Another interesting question I had was, you know, you made that decision to come down to middleweight, like a more realistic weight for you. Sometimes at that weight, I find there can be kind of like it's a bit of a way where some people are at a bit of an in-between weight, so you have had to sort of do 74s and things like that. How do you see your kind of like, you're a pretty big dude, like you're a big middleweight. Do you see yourself kind of staying there, or do you think you might venture, as you continue with your strength and conditioning and things, you might venture back up to super middleweight eventually, or do you think you'll be at 72.5 for the foreseeable?
I think I'm one of those middle guys. 74 is fucking perfect.
That's perfect.
Yeah, I can make it like comfortably and not be too like stressed about it. And 72.5 is like a bit more of the pressure, like to make the weight. I can still, like, realistically, like Reese has tried to convince me to go down to 69.85. And I'm like, unless I'm getting like 10 grand a fight, fuck off.
That would be really hard. That would be really hard.
Unless I'm making like big money, I'm not going down that low. But 72.5, like I can make it on a solid camp, like 6 weeks. I can make it I stay pretty, like I'm active all the time, so I stay pretty lean. 4 weeks, I can make it in 4 weeks, really. Then 76, I can make in a week. Like I make that super easy. I never felt like I struggled at 76. The only thing that made me struggle was when I fought Nick. He was so much bigger.
He's a big dude.
Yeah. He is a big dude. When I hit him, he told me that I was the hardest person to ever kick him. When I kicked him, my foot hurt. The first kick I threw hurt me, and I was like, I'm not moving this motherfucker. Like I have to send everything in every single kick, and I did. And he just was a brick wall. So
yeah, he is a brick wall, dude. Yeah, made of stone. Yeah,
it might have just been him.
Yeah.
Or at 76, I felt like I was comfortable the whole time. That until I got to that top level, and then it was like, oh, okay, these guys are cutting weight. I have to cut.
But then it's kind of like I've seen you have fights at 76 where you were smaller than you are now, I feel.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
So it's interesting to see, like you've got such a big frame. Like I can see you growing into a more natural 76. Like I think you probably weren't. Look, maybe you were a fit just as a smaller 76 before, but probably a better suited middleweight. But time goes by.
Yeah. I'm like 24, so I'm still growing.
Yeah, young dude.
Mm-hmm. Sure. All right, cool. So still got a few more minutes from there. We ask maybe a few more questions from there. I don't have any serious ones left, so I'm just going to ask this one. So, it's well documented that you have a bromance with Jayy Davis, longtime listener of the podcast.
Yeah.
No one. How would you describe your relationship with Jayy Davis?
That is funny. I love Jayy. Jake's one of my good mates. We always talk back and forth. We started just talking randomly on Instagram. I can't even remember. I think it was after one of my Ambrose fights. I think it was the fight that Hugh actually came and watched. Probably the worst fight of my career, but
every fight is that.
He just randomly DM'd me one day, and then we've been in love ever since.
Oh, you can turn that into a movie, a nice rom-com.
There's plenty of movies I could turn me and his relationship into.
It's cool. I see you guys hanging out a bit. It's nice, It's like, it's just kind of like, I don't know, just like, randomly happened.
He's lucky he doesn't live closer.
Awesome. I'll throw it back to Hugh if he has anything left.
Look, just with the time left, want to throw it to you, Cody. Thanks for your time this afternoon, and just anyone you want to give a shout to, anything worth mentioning, feel free to just jump in with anything you wanted to chat about today that we didn't cover.
Thank you guys for having me. First off, I appreciate the talk. I hope it's been entertaining. I want to say thank you to everyone at Machete or Reese. Reese's help, everyone at Full Force as well. Like thank all of them. If anyone, there was something I was gonna say on the tip of my tongue and now I forget. Fuck. Next fight is May 20th, 1774. If you haven't got your tickets, I don't think they're out yet. But if you're thinking,
that would be why, because they're not on sale.
Probably don't have your tickets yet, but when they come, you get them because it's gonna sell out. I think my last two I've sold 100 tickets each. So having like a massive crowd's fucking sick. Looking out after and just seeing everyone like supporting you is mad. So having a sea of crowd will be there. I think it's a good interstate opponent as well. So having more people there cheering for me will be even better. That's about it off the top of my head.
Nice. Excellent. Yeah. So same thing, man. I really appreciate you having on for that. Probably just very quickly though, is if you have any sponsors or where they can catch you on Instagram, just shout that out very quickly.
Yeah. So thank you to all my sponsors and Exact Security, Fit and Healthy Chef, Whole Body Health Hub. Thank you to everyone at Ethos and Fight Effects on Instagram for all my strength and conditioning work. Again, thank you, Machete. You can follow me on Instagram at Cody Traeway. And then I have a Facebook page, but people don't really use Facebook that much. But if you're in that generation, Team Cody Traeway.
That generation.
Team Cody Traeway on Facebook. But yeah.
Awesome. All right. So just after the podcast, just hanging around with us, Cody, from this one. But from us here at podcast Combat Chats, if you're listening on the YouTube from there, hit this fucking subscribe button. Yeah. I know you're watching. Hit it. Yeah, that helps us out. Try and get us to 1K. That's our goal. All right.
Yeah.
On Spotify and everything else. Remember, 5 stars. That's always appreciated. And until next time, we'll see you.
I'm off to Infliction to make a fool of myself. See you back in studio next week.
Yeah, peace.